Okay, everybody, we're back.
We are back.
Yeah. Okay, so we were supposed to do a show last week and we didn't. I have a confession to make. I wasn't um, super bummed out because it was the first night back of The Handmaid's Tale, which is it's now the third season, and I hope it's the last one. Okay, because the first season was so good, and so was the second season, and I just don't know how long they can keep it up.
Right.
But it's really good. Okay, it's about a dystopian future, but all the stuff has happened where the women, all the fertile women, they've had a plunging birth rate, so all the fertile women are like enslaved to be baby makers, basically. So it's not just, and so it's just really brutal. One of the things they do really well is like, one of the things this dystopian society has done is fix the environment, and so they're claiming that they're saving the world, and that's kind of one of the things that makes bad guys are like really good at, they don't work in total absolutes. Most places don't. There's a saying about Mussolini, the Italian dictator it's a real famous saying, was he made the trains run on time. So, it's the sort of like somebody can usually, you put a little truth into your lie, basically, or like if you're doing something that's 90% bad, throw in something good just to try and like twist it around some. Apparently Trump has a new immigration plan with Mexico, and he's not saying what it was yet, but apparently he was waving around a piece of paper today and people saw it. But
what would they feel about the ones that seen it?
They didn't. I have not seen a good enough description yet. But okay.
We get that
I know,
office,
man.
This is just the government is just like a clown, a circus, literally a circus, dude.
Yeah.
I just don't even like watching it no more.
No.
That's how bad it is right now. It's like this dude is just, dude. We let a wacko into the White House, man, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we did, and we need to try and do our best for him not to get a second term. So, this is one of the things, because, okay, like, speaking of Mexico and the border, there's now, I guess there's now a bunch of refugees from Central Africa that got over to Central America, and now they're crossing the Mexican border the same way everybody else is, like just swimming across, or like crossing illegally. And so this now officials in San Antonio, Texas, are searching for people who can speak Lingala, and that's actually what our friends in DR Congo speak. Lingala and French. So I was like, wow, man. So I guess everybody over and all the Central Africans, somehow, it just amazes me, because I'm like, wow, there's like 60,000 people in these detention camps, and they're still coming. Like, how bad is it where they are? It's just crazy. And, there's something whether they're, like, now they're removing educational and recreational programs for the kids that are in detention. It's like, that's bullshit. You have kids in detention. You have to take them, they're entitled to the best, so.
I can't keep watching that dude. That dude
Yeah.
just wait until hopefully people will be smart enough to make sure they don't re-vote him back in.
Well, hopefully, but I real, I mean, the Democrats need to get their shit together. Tonight, Trump and Biden are both speaking in Iowa, apparently, and just trading insults. So it's like, oh man, Joe.
I just kind of feel if they vote him back in, there's going to be so much stuff happening. If he came back, I don't think it's going to. I think the United States is going to be in trouble.
Well, yeah.
Right now we're looking like clowns, but you know how they say once you keep looking like a clown and everybody realizes you're a clown, then that's when people want to start taking advantage of it.
Well, they are. I mean,
if you put them in again,
the tariffs are
right
just
with China. Dude, I keep watching. I'm like, dude, this dude's gonna. China's probably being, they're probably holding it because they're probably saying, okay, he might be gone, then maybe the Americans aren't that stupid to bring him back again. But if they bring him back again, it's gonna be bad.
Well, the Democrats got to be smarter because I mean, while people are like fucking around with like 50 different candidates, I mean, most of Trump's people still like him. I mean, I don't know.
People are. I don't care what anybody says. I think they don't like him. They act like they like him, but I think they messed up, but they don't want to admit it. So they're kind of just sticking by him because they know that if they don't, they'll look wrong. That's my feelings on it, because some of the stuff that he's doing, I know they're not going for it. I mean, come on, man.
Well, you think like the farmers, for example, and but like some of the stuff he's doing, like cutting funding to family planning organizations all over the world.
Right.
I mean, there's been deaths because of that of women that are like that have been turned away, and so
you're surprised how people are though, man. When people they get to a point, I don't know how you say it, when people hate people so much and they don't want to lose, that they'll even back something up even if they don't agree with it, but they'll back it up for the fact that they already voted for it and they don't want to look bad, and that's what I think is going on now.
I think so too.
He's making too many mistakes. It's just too bad. I mean, even if you did like him for certain reasons, it's like the question is, what do you actually like about this guy? What has he done that you like? And most of them can't answer that. And you argue with people about that. Well, you know what they say? Well, Obama did this.
That's so fucking stupid, man.
Bill Clinton did this.
So what?
And it's always this.
I know, man.
Back and forth. That's when you know someone is wrong when they do that.
Well, you hope so, man.
That's what
I'm really sick of people. What I'm sick of the left saying is like, well, imagine if Obama did this. It's like, okay, you know what? The right hated Obama, the left hates Trump. That's just how it works. I don't know. I mean,
I just don't see any goodness in Trump. I don't see anything good about Trump that made me just want to be like, okay, I can deal with this guy. There's nothing good about him to me.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's why I don't understand.
Well,
out of all the Republicans,
but we got to try and understand.
You got one of the guys that don't even, what I'm saying. Some Republicans, I admit, some of them may still be harsh, but they may have like a good point to them, something that okay, I can agree with that. But this guy, it's just like, there's nothing good about this guy. You can't salvage this guy. There's nothing good about him.
Well, I don't think so either, but we got like,
he's a good businessman. I'm sure he made money off of all them hats. And all the other stuff. But besides that,
I don't think he's a very good businessman. Yeah,
I think in some ways he is. He knows how to get
he's sure
the
making
dumb
money.
ones. He knows how to get the dumb ones.
He's sure making money off the presidency.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy? I mean, that's just so crazy to me. Like, why does that not bother more people?
They don't care. And I'm pretty sure when he leaves and when he's no longer president, we're gonna find a bunch of Trump towers.
Yeah.
All over in different places, and we're going to wonder, like,
Yeah,
we're like, oh, you wonder why there's about 50, 60 Trump towers in Russia, don't you?
Yeah.
You see who he made the deals with.
Well, what the Democrats need to do is, like, to me, is I think it's stupid to be talking about impeachment unless they need to try and get some Republicans on their side, because a lot of them don't like him either. I mean, a lot of them think he's crazy, but what are they going to do? I mean,
I don't think I think they're at a point right now They don't want to be wrong. I don't think even if they wanted to come on the other side, it's going to be hard for them to do it.
Well, sure, it's going to be hard, but it's
It's hard to sway.
Well,
I
it
notice
is.
with politics and religion, it's just one of them things. No matter what you do, this person takes a side. They usually stick with their side no matter what.
Well, you need, but in politics, that's, I mean, it's their job to figure out how to change stuff. And so, like, no, it's not. It's not easy, but that's. I mean, everybody wants something. That's one of the. There's a really good HBO film about LBJ called All the Way. I was just watching it again, and it shows. See, this is why I get really sick of people saying like, oh, they can't do this. They can't do this. Oh, everybody was against Obama. It's like nobody was more against Obama than the Southerners were against the Civil Rights Act. Okay, and LBJ got it passed. It's like that's what you need, and he would figure out what everybody wants something. You need to figure out what people want, and like okay, and so for them to try and get the Republicans to turn on Trump, I mean, it's not the like okay, if they get them, make deals, figure out like how people can get what they want,
Right.
and and it's not like. It's not like there won't. Well, what they should do. What I would do is try and like strike a deal with somebody because if Trump gets impeached, then Pence is president, and Pence will need to select a vice president.
Right.
So that's what they should do. Try and like start talking to Republicans and try and like figure out how to line people up to be the vice president. I mean, that's what you need. That's what you need to do. And like when LBJ was trying to pass the civil rights bill, he was telling Hubert Humphrey like, okay, because Humphrey was a Northern liberal, like, okay, you get your guys to fall in line, and maybe you can be my running mate. I mean, that's what everybody wants something.
Right.
That's what and then you see LBJ on the phone, see he was just figure out everything, he he would like, and here's another thing that like that they would show Frank Underwood doing in the first season of House and Cards, like, okay, what's something that somebody wants in their district, like, okay, how about I appropriate this for something new in your district? And it showed him, like, he figured out, like, in order to get the Civil Rights Bill Act out of committee, there's a scene where it shows him, they figured out, like, okay, he gave Martin Luther King a list of representatives and said, like, okay, have all of your people lobby who are in these guys' districts, lobby them. And they did it.
Yeah. But so, you see what you're saying? There's a guy who gave a little to try to gain a little. So it's a little bit more understandable for what you're saying. Does that make sense? Well, by him giving,
yeah,
he's going to get people that are going to want to support him.
Well, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, nowadays we don't see that no more. It's kind of like,
because people are too fucking stupid.
I just want to do it.
Well, because they're too stupid, and because they partially because they need to try and. I think part of the problem is it's all, there's 24-hour news and there's Twitter, and so they need to be out there. They need to constantly be out there talking about impeachment because that's what people expect. Whereas if the cameras were off, they could try and like form they might form relationships. But that's the thing is. I mean, there's always people that, I mean, power is like, okay, you knock the president off, then somebody, vice president becomes president, somebody else becomes vice president, everybody moves up a step. So that's what they should do, is try and figure that out. And yeah. So okay, now this is kind of so there's a Netflix new Netflix film called When They See Us, about the Central Park 5.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about that?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay, late 80s, like 89, a woman, a jogger, was raped and nearly killed in Central Park.
Oh, wow.
And this was late, and so these 5 young black men, like, they were teenagers. I think the oldest was 16 or something, were picked up, and then people went ape shit. And then that's one of the things that really got Trump, like, took out full page ads in the New York Times, like calling them animals and stuff. And it was so these black teenagers were convicted with just no DNA evidence, no nothing. And over the past few years, and then eventually like 20 years, they spent a lot of time in jail. They've all now won massive lawsuits against the city of New York. And so there was a documentary made about them, and there's a Netflix film which is directed by Ava DuVernay, who did Selma. So the prosecutor in the case was named Linda Fairstein, and she's somebody that really did get a lot of acclaim for nailing people on sex crimes, basically. And again, it was the late 80s. I mean, things were different back then. I mean, what she did a good job. She really got a lot of did a good job on getting convictions, but she really fucked up. She just went like ape shit on these and went ahead and like got these teenagers convicted and got to be like a big heroine and all of that. And she now writes novels, and so there's a movement to get people to try and boycott her novels. But she's played by, in the Netflix drama, she's played by Felicity Huffman,
Mm-hmm.
the lady that's like now in trouble for bribe, that's now like possibly going to go to jail as brother Becky for getting her kids into college. So that was a little touch right there. I started watching the dramatization of it, but then I started watching the Ken Burns documentary, sort of going back and forth. See, it's also different from that. I didn't have a TV, and so there was a whole lot of stuff that happened at that time that I just wasn't really very aware of. I mean, I never had a TV. I never really so I got to be, there's a lot of stuff, all the stuff that's pre-internet, I don't really know much about. So, okay, okay, so another thing that we have been following is the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so there's been a major investigation for the past 2 years in Canada to try and figure out like, why is this happening, and what can be done about it. And it was a matter again of going. So there was a hearing with just hundreds of family members there, and people whose stories had not been taken down. And so so some of the advocates or the people that had been working on this said that they would come to this, they would try and get help for this from the authorities, and would hear well, how do you know that it's true? And at that point, there was like 500 missing and murdered Aboriginal women. And the report said that the country of Canada is complicit in a race-based genocide against Indigenous women, that Indigenous women were 12 times more likely to be killed or to disappear than other women in Canada, and the inquiry blamed the crisis on deep-rooted colonialism and state inaction. And among more than 200 recommendations is a call for all Canadians to help end violence, including by learning Indigenous history. Like, for example, from the 1870s until 1996, Canada forced thousands of Indigenous children to go to residential schools, and a lot of them, were abused there. And like, there's volunteers that regularly dredge rivers looking for bodies, like not even like looking for anybody specifically. They just know that there's bodies out there. And the thing is, nobody's been arrested. And I don't understand how you can be doing a investigation for 2 years and not arrest anybody. One of the cases, there was a serial killer who preyed on Native women, and he was caught. And so after he was caught, there were killings that were ascribed to him, but I don't know. This was just released, and I'll be doing some more reading about it, because I really want to see what those 200 some more of those 200 recommendations are, and if there's gonna be some fucking convictions, basically. So, I think we are almost ready to wind up our show. I am going to be checking out The Handmaid's Tale. Nice. And tomorrow night, Roselle is in Concord with the Nika Lounge. And next week, we're going to see what's happening next week.
Oh, yeah. We'll probably do another show next week.
Yeah. Maybe Thursday?
Yeah, we can do Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have Nika Lounge, so yeah, that'll be perfect.
Cool. Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next week, next week.